Welcome to BNEWS Weekly. I'm Phil Gallagher along with BNEWS Director Rich Hosford, BNEWS reporter Robert Paris, Peter Brown with the weather, Gretchen Carey with the community calendar, and Anthony Matos with sports. Thank you for joining us. Students and school employees in Massachusetts will have to continue wearing masks at least until the first month of 2022 in a continued effort to slow the spread of COVID-19. As reported on BNews, during a special meeting of the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education on August 24th, the board voted to declare exigent circumstances pursuant to the Student Learning Time regulations and authorized the Commissioner of Elementary and Secondary Education, Jeff Riley, to require masks for public school students age 5 and above and staff in all grades through at least October 1, 2021. In late September, that order was extended until November 1. On Tuesday, Riley extended the mask requirement through at least January 15th, with the understanding the state would reevaluate the situation at that time. According to the release, DESC, in collaboration with medical experts and state health officials, will also continue to review and consider additional metrics related to the state mask requirements based on their ongoing review of public health data. Currently, if a school building demonstrates a vaccination rate of 80% or more of all students and staff in the school through an attestation submitted to the DSC, then vaccinated individuals in that school would no longer be subject to the state mask requirement. In alignment with statewide guidance, unvaccinated students and staff would be required to continue to wear masks. Burlington Elementary School students will soon be eating in the school's cafeterias again, taking a big burden off of the food worker staff. At Tuesday night's school committee meeting, member Christine Monaco said she had been hearing from numerous staff members who said they are having difficult time preparing and delivering meals so students can eat in classrooms and other settings. Here she is.
I think it's obvious to everyone that I am very concerned about COVID, and I don't want any, I don't want to take risks at all. But if there is a way that we can work to get these cafeterias open, I think it would be very worthwhile for the social emotional well-being of the kids, for to eliminate some of this extra work on the cafeteria staff. And
Monaco also said the current setup is leading to more wasted food because when cafeteria workers prepare the meals to be delivered to students, they include all items rather than just having students pick what they want in line, when in line. Monaco added she doesn't want lunch to be an event that spreads COVID, but would like a safe experience that includes using the cafeteria. Here's she again on the subject.
The food services director is having a terrible time getting all of the paper goods and those kinds of products that are used to prepare every lunch individually and send it up to a classroom. The workers are having to run all over the building after they do all this work preparing the lunches. They have to run all over the building delivering the lunches. And I think it's an untenable situation.
Superintendent Conti said the administration has been looking at the elementary lunch situation and do plan to start using the cafeterias for lunch in early November. He said it will take some time to get the cafeterias ready for children to eat because they're currently being used for academic purposes. Conti said safety measures will be in place, windows will be open when possible to increase airflow, and everyone will have to wear masks while in line and only take them off when they sit down to eat. Still, because contact tracing in a cafeteria is difficult, he does expect to see an uptick in close contacts, which will put more pressure on the test and stay program. The Burlington-based Domestic Prevention and Assistance Organization, SAHELI, held a 5K walk last week in recognition of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. BNews Director Rich Hosford was there to check it out and files this report.
A good number of people gathered at the Burlington Town Common this past Saturday morning to show their support for all survivors of domestic violence and raise awareness about the important cause. It was the first 5K walk for domestic violence awareness put on by the Burlington-based Domestic Violence Prevention and Assistance Organization, Sahili, which served 300 women last year and thousands more during its over 20 years of working in the community.
Sahili's mission is to empower women to lead safe and healthy lives. And so we are a domestic violence service organization offering culturally specific services to survivors of domestic violence who are mainly immigrants coming from South Asia and Middle Eastern countries. We've been doing this for 25 years. We offer an array of services, from emotional support to legal and housing help, so that the survivors can live a life free of abuse and get back on their feet to take care of themselves and their families.
Due to the unique assistance they can provide, both with language and cultural understanding, Sahili works with survivors from all over the region.
We are a statewide organization, so we get people who seek help from all over the state. In fact, all of New England, we are the only organization that offer the language and cultural help for South Asian survivors. So they come from all over the state.
The walk was one of a handful of events Sahili held throughout the month of October in recognition of it being Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Yeah, it was more of awareness that people should be walking and helping other people, women who are going through domestic violence, and because nobody talks about it, so it is more the community coming together and help every person, every woman who is going through this should be there to help them. So it was more awareness, and awareness for Sahili too, that we exist in Burlington for the last 25 years. So that was the main reason here, actually.
Among the participants were Mama Bear Effect founder Adrian Simeone and Mrs. Massachusetts, who serves on the Domestic Violence Prevention Organization's board.
I think it's really important that we all be a voice for all forms of violence because it ripples throughout society in so many ways, and domestic violence and child abuse are interconnected. So we're really not going to solve one unless we also address the other one. So it's really important that we as a society and a community realize that this is an issue that affects people that we know. It's not something that everyone's going to be talking about, but that's also because we have to start talking about it and having these conversations to open up the dialogue so people can feel comfortable and safe to get the help that they need.
Well, because I am on the board of the Mama Bear Effect and we advocate for ending abuse across the board, I wanted to come out and support Sahili today. I thought it was a great turnout. The event was great. I would love to see more people. I'd love to see more men get involved as well.
Finally, organizers were happy with the turnout.
Well, it's I would kudos to Renu and her team for putting this together, and with Burlington Equity Coalition and community members. So this arose out of a vision that people should know about domestic violence because it happens in every community, regardless of race, gender, socioeconomic status. 1 out of 4 women, experience domestic violence in their lifetime in the U.S. So we wanted to bring that awareness. That's why we wanted to do a walk, include the community in the walk, so we would all walk for a common purpose and bring awareness about this issue.
It turned out to be very good because we were not expecting, and the Burlington town has been so kind. They came here to help and then help for the cause. Thank you so much. I really thank the whole Burlington town because they have been so kind.
From the Burlington Town Common, I'm BNEWS Director Rich Hosford.
A new upscale Mexican restaurant set to open early next year will now have a liquor license after Simon Properties, owner of the Burlington Mall, caved to the wishes of the Select Board for the second time. Rosa Mexicano received a favorable vote to transfer one of the site-specific liquor licenses under Simon's control, which were dedicated to the mall after a unanimous vote by the board at Monday night's meeting. The restaurant had been before the board earlier this month to seek approval of the license formerly held by Besitos, another Mexican-style restaurant. However, board members said they wanted the mall to exhaust all the mall-specific licenses granted to Simon Properties in 2018 before transferring the Besitos license to a new venture. Select board members pointed out that Besitos is the last townwide license available, and since the mall has licenses that can only be used on its property, they should be used first. Simon Properties said they intend to use all the site-specific licenses and the Besitos license in their push to become a destination of restaurants and other uses to keep people visiting. This is the second time the Select Board successfully won in the argument with Simon. Originally, the mall attempted to transfer the Besitos license to Brazilian steakhouse Fogo do Chão, but after the board refused, they came back with a proposal to use a site-specific one. Further, after a meeting with the representatives of the board and Simon's Properties, it was decided that the Besitos license which was still held by Simon, was delivered back into the possession of the town. Select Board members said as a concession when the town goes to the state legislature to seek more licenses, if they do, they will argue that there should be one more mall-specific license as part of the special legislation. Longtime town employee Brian Curtin, who retired before the pandemic struck, was honored at an in-person meeting of the Select Board on Monday for his 44 years of service as the town treasurer tax collector with the traditional rocking chair. BNEWS Director Rich Hosford was there and has this look.
It was a special event at this week's Board of Selectmen meeting. Brian Curtin, who was treasurer tax collector for 44 years until his retirement shortly before the pandemic, was honored by the board for his decades of service. Many people praised Brian's commitment to the town, both in the office and by volunteering with multiple other charity organizations, and highlighted his many achievements.
Mr. Curtin, I believe that everyone's right in saying that a chair and some words don't like some 40 years of service to the community. You didn't just come in and provide us with paper shuffling and, keeping our dollars in order. It was 40 years of effort and humility, giving of yourself to this community. I don't think that we can properly thank you enough or in the right way.
Brian, thank you for your service and to make what you've always done, make a better Burlington. God bless. Thank you, Brian.
Saying that, you work for 40 years in the town, you get a chair, which is an honorarium. But I think the real honorarium for Brian is that he had the pleasure of serving the town for 40 years.
Some people dedicate years of service to the town of Burlington. Brian has dedicated decades of service, but not just to the town of Burlington, also, non-town related activities, CCD, youth sports, the scholarship fund. You could not count the number of people over the years that Brian has helped.
Brian said he was very appreciative of all the nice things friends and coworkers said about him.
Well, I'm overwhelmed by, the comments from my friends and other elected officials. I really appreciate the being recognized for my years of service, and it was just a great night.
He also said he found it to be an honor to be able to serve the town he grew up in and will continue to do so moving forward.
As I said, I have been blessed to have been elected for 44 years as the treasurer tax collector, and I was able to, grow up here and, to serve the residents and be elected 15 consecutive terms and to serve the number of years and to be involved in town government. I'm so proud of Burlington and what we've accomplished financially, and I just got recently elected to the Burlington Housing Authority, and I hope to be able to serve, the seniors in this town and give back again to continue as long as I can.
Finally, I asked what he misses most in retirement.
Oh, I'm going to miss, obviously, the people that I've worked with, all the elected officials and, Ways and Means Committee members and my staff. I miss them. I see them, obviously. I'm still involved in town. But, obviously I miss the day-to-day of seeing everybody.
From Burlington Town Hall, I'm BNEWS Director Rich Hosford.
The Burlington Select Board agreed to send a letter to the short-term rental company Airbnb to officially notify them about a town meeting vote against their type of business. At the September 30th, 2020 town meeting, the legislative body, by more than a two-thirds vote, approved a zoning amendment to prohibit all short-term rentals within the town of Burlington. This vote came after concerns were raised about some parties that were being held in residential neighborhoods by individuals that were unknown to neighbors. The zoning change effectively stopped companies like Airbnb from operating in town, but at Monday night's meeting, Planning Director Kristen Kasner said the company had requested a formal notification to change their system to exclude Burlington residents from putting their properties up on their site. The Select Board reviewed the letter and agreed to send it. Member Nick Priest said he thought the zoning change and subsequent letter were a good idea on the grounds of safety, pointing out that Airbnb does not require background checks on renters. There was also some discussion about enforcement and the possibility of adding a position to the building department to check out complaints of possible violations being raised. That discussion will be taken up at a subsequent meeting. Burlington's Economic Development Team opened the new Pocket Park in the town center, a project meant to attract new customers to area businesses with a beer garden event. BNEWS Director Rich Hosford was there and has this report.
This past Saturday, Burlington's town center area was rocking. Many people gathered in the area of Morin Avenue next to True North Coffee and Sweet Ginger to socialize, appreciate some entertainment, and down a couple of cold ones. It was a beer garden event organized by the town's economic development team and was meant to highlight the new Pocket Park that was built in the parking lot.
Well, the idea behind the concept, in planner speak, it's placemaking, and it's really kind of a community development meets economic development in a lot of ways. We're trying to bring people out to the town center, support our businesses, and at the same time kind of engage with our neighbors and, kind of be joyful a little bit.
Melissa said that since the park was installed, her department has heard positive things from the local businesses.
Oh, we've gotten great feedback from the businesses. If anything, we've gotten more interest in doing more activities or programming like this. And I think it's having the effect that we wanted it to have, really. It's serving as a catalyst to engage the business owners and see what's possible when we work together.
The project and the event received a thumbs up from Burlington Area Chamber of Commerce President Rick Parker.
I think it's a great idea and a great opportunity to activate the area. We've seen people down here today that we probably haven't seen maybe in quite some time, and it really helps the small businesses that are located on this side of town get some interest from people who haven't been here before.
Rick said he would like to see similar projects in other areas of town.
That'd be the plan. I think if we can get this started here, get some interest, and people would see how successful they can be, it helps to be able to do it in other places as well. I think this is a great opportunity to show the other side of town. A lot of people know, certainly the mall, 3rd Ave in the district, but this is really the last stronghold of small business in Burlington, and it's a great opportunity. It's a great day to be out here.
Finally, Melissa said she was happy with the turnout at the event.
Oh, we've been super thrilled. I think we got very lucky with the weather. It's been sunny. Earlier in the week, there was some rain predicted, but everyone's really excited about just being outdoors and, being able to enjoy, an extended fall.
From the Burlington Pocket Park off of Cambridge Street and Morin Avenue, I'm BNews Director Rich Hosford.
That video was filmed earlier in the day, and we're pleased to report that it was a much more heavily attended event than is shown in that report. Patrol Officer Sage Costa gave a presentation to the BHS Help Desk members about how the Burlington Police Department uses drones on the job. BNews reporter Robert Paris went to check it out and has this look.
Inside of Area 123, Mr. Leroy Wan had Officer Sage Costa of the Burlington Police Department come in and talk about drones to his technology class.
Officer Costa and I first met last spring because I had known about the drone program that the Burlington Police Department has. And essentially, we just kind of emailed back and forth. So he did a really good presentation with a group of seniors that were doing their senior internship and were interested in learning about drones, possibly getting their drone license. And then when Stephen Papagno had said that he knew Officer Costa, I figured maybe this will be a good opportunity for Stephen to interview him. And then I guess one thing led to another. Then it became maybe he could actually come in and talk to the class.
It's good to talk to the students about, drones in general and in drones with the police department. It's always good to get exposure out there. We're not trying to hide anything. So, drones are for good, and that's what we like to try to advertise.
Drones are becoming a factor in real-world situations, including the ones used at the police department and the high school.
If they see a police department using their drones, that it's not for spying, or they don't have to be worried about their security. It's just that we're there and we're helping our patrol guys accomplish some end mission. If it's search and rescue, if it's a fire scene, if it's a hazmat scene, we're just looking to assist. We're a support unit. We're not leading the charge. We're up there to support the guys that are on the ground.
So I think it was just important just to kind of hear directly from him to understand how they're using it in law enforcement, and just to get that real world sort of experience and understanding of how they're used.
From Area 123, I'm Robert Paris for BNews Weekly.
We go now to BNews weather for the latest forecast and see if we have some scary weather on Halloween night. We'll also check out the community calendar with Gretchen Carey to see what's happening in Burlington.
Well, hello everyone. And this is Peter Brown with Get Your Weather for the next 7 days. I know it's hard to believe. Here we are looking at Halloween. We have reached the end of October, and interestingly enough, we are now 2/3 of the way through meteorological fall. So unfortunately, only 4 weeks until you know what comes, but we probably still have some great weather to go before you have to start worrying about that dreaded winter season. Now, starting out our period on Friday, we're supposed to be seeing average highs at this time of the year in the mid to upper 50s, and that's pretty much where we're going to be. In fact, we're pretty much going to be around average for the next 7 days or so. You know, it was quite a surprise when we had that extremely powerful nor'easter that came through the Burlington area here just a couple of days ago. We had some really heavy rain, some incredibly high winds, and interestingly enough, when we made the forecast out, there was only a chance of a small storm supposed to be expected, so it's really easy to see how the weather can change so quickly from when we put the forecast together into what actually happens out there. Now, when we get towards the end of the period, again, we're supposed to be seeing temperatures at this time of the year in the low to mid 50s, and we may actually be cooler than that as we head in towards Thursday next week. Looks like it's going to be a real cold shot of air heading towards us from central Canada. And of course, as you notice, the days keep getting shorter and shorter as we head towards the end of October. So as we go ahead, let's take a look what the Climate Prediction Center is calling for us here in the Burlington area in terms of temperatures and precipitation for the next 7 to 10 days. And again, on our temperature map, looks like they're expecting us to have about average temperatures, maybe getting into that below average. I know that looks like that's going to be a little to our west, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some below average temperatures as we head towards the end of the period. As we go ahead and look at our precipitation chances, again, nothing new here. Looks like they're expecting us to have a slight chance of above average precipitation, and that's going to be noted when we see the rain that's heading for us to start out our weekend. I know, unfortunately, you don't want to hear that going into Halloween weekend, but it looks like planning for things on Saturday ahead of Halloween, it's going to be pretty wet out there. So let's go ahead and take a look at those 7 days of weather coming up here in the Burlington area. Again, starting out on Friday, looks like we're going to be seeing some cloudy skies with showers developing, especially later in the day. Temperatures only in the mid-50s, so a cool, raw, late October day out there. As we head into Saturday, looks like that's when we're going to see some pretty steady, maybe some moderate rain coming back into the picture, with our highs again only in the upper 50s. So again, pretty chilly out there. Breezy, not nearly as windy as it was with the last system, but definitely a real fall feel to the air. As we head into Halloween, looks like that weather is going to be clearing out for the trick-or-treaters. It's going to be a pretty pleasant day, temperatures in the upper 50s, so very nice if you have to be out and about. And when we get into the start of the work week, looks like we're going to be seeing the sun coming out, temperatures jumping back up into the lower 60s. Going to be pretty chilly out there at night as we start to see light winds moving in and a high-pressure center moving over us. So temperatures are definitely going to be getting down into the upper 30s. And as we round out the period, getting in towards the Thursday time frame, looks like we're going to have some unsettled weather. Again, a pretty strong cold front moving through with some showers, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't make it out of the 40s on Thursday. And we may actually be seeing at least our first heavy frost, or maybe even our first freeze Thursday night into next Friday, where we may see temperatures going down into the upper 20s. So everyone, get out there, bundle up, enjoy the weather, and have a great week.
I'm Gretchen Carey, and this is your community calendar. On November 5th through the 7th, Burlington Public Library will be having their annual fall book sale. For times and more information, go to burlingtonpubliclibrary.org. On Saturday, November 6th at 10 a.m., the Red Trousers Show featuring members of the BHS Chorus and band will be performing at the Burlington Sculpture Park. Everyone is welcome and the event is free. Also on November 6th, the Burlington Parks and Recreation Department is having a day trip to the New England Christmas Festival at Mohegan Sun. Pre-registration is required. To register, go to burlingtonrecreation.org. I'm Gretchen Carey, and that was your community calendar.
Though most of the action this fall, excuse me, is in the rearview mirror, there are some regular season games and playoff attempts still ahead. For all the latest Red Devil news, we go now to BNEWS sports reporter Anthony Matos for this week's sports report.
Hey everyone, I'm Anthony Matos, and this is your weekly sports report. We're nearing the end of the fall regular season, but a couple of our games left for the Red Devil teams. We have the scoop, so let's get to it. Burlington football headed to Melrose to take on the Red Raiders on October 22nd. Let's roll the highlights.
It was a battle of the Reds at Fred Green Memorial Field when Burlington and Melrose battled head-to-head under the lights. The Red Devils scored on their first drive as quarterback Ronan Noak ran it in for a Devils TD, 7-0 after the extra point. Melrose answered back as quarterback Trevor Botto threw to wide receiver Zach Federico for a Red Raiders TD, tying up the game at 7-7. At the beginning of the second quarter, running back Adam Eldeeb ran it in for a Devils TD, giving them back the lead 14-7. Melrose had a 3-and-out on their next drive. However, when the punting unit gave the ball back to the Devils, the returner fumbled and gave it right back to the Red Raiders. It turned into a game of vice versa as Melrose gave the ball back to Burlington with an interception made by corner Aman Harani. The score stayed the same for Burlington as they were unable to put up any points during the rest of the second quarter. Before the end of the half, Botto of Melrose ran it in to tie it up. However, the extra point was no good. Score at halftime was 14-13 Burlington. The Burlington offense had a tough time during the second half as they were unable to get to the red zone in any of their possessions. Melrose got 2 additional scores in the third. And a failed 2-point attempt in the fourth, and missed a field goal attempt. The Red Raiders added 1 more touchdown in the fourth, final score 33-14 Melrose.
Burlington drops to 0-7 in the season and will verse the Stoneham Spartans in their final regular season game. You can check it out on the BCAT TV Facebook page. Girls swimming had their final meet of the season against the Lexington Minutemen on October 25th. The ladies finished the meet with a 75-52 loss. Finished the regular season at 0-10. They had a meet against Woburn and Melrose this past week. The results have not been posted. The team will head to WPI for the sectionals on November 7th. Girls and boys soccer took on the Stoneham Spartans on the 20th, where both of the teams ended their games in a 1-1 tie. The Watertown Red Raiders were the next opponent on the 22nd. Senior captain Sylvia Cummings made the goal in the 1-0 win, and the boys lost their match 1-0. They then faced the Melrose Red Raiders on the 27th, where the girls won their match 3-1. 2 girls in the game were made by Cassidy Suhu and another by Sylvia Cummings. The boys lost the match 3-0. Both teams faced Wakefield on the 28th, where the girls fell 2-1 and the boys lost 4-1. Currently, the girls are 5-9-3 and the boys are 4-9-3. They'll have their final games on the 30th at Varsity Field against Greater Lowell Tech. Girls varsity volleyball traveled to take on the Mortarers on the 21st, where they won the meet 3-0 in the sets. Then they traveled to Melrose on the 25th, where they won 3-2 in the sets. They then headed to Wakefield, where they lost 2-3 after a 5-game set in the final game of the regular season. They finished the year at 13-5 and will head to the state tournament next week. Girls field hockey headed to Watertown on the 21st, where they lost 6-0. They then tied with Bedford on the 23rd, with a goal scored by Fiona Noon. Burlington then headed to Melrose on the 25th, where they tied their opponent 1-1. The lone goal was made by Lexi McKinnon. For their final game of the season, they traveled to Wakefield. The Devils finished off their seasons with a 2-1 win. Girls in the game were made by Anna Otis and Jolene Russo. Burlington's final regular season record is 3-11-4. Both cross-country teams took on the Watertown Red Raiders on the 28th for their final regular season meet of the year. Girls won 20-40 and their boys won 15-48. The girls finished the year 2-4 as this taping, and the girls finished the season at 4-2. Both teams will head to the Middlesex League meet on November 1st. For more Red Devil action, go to the BNews Sports section at bcattv.org/sports and check out our Twitter page at BNews Sports. That's all for Weekly Sports Report. I'm Anthony Matos. Back to you guys in the studio.
Another week, another photo to highlight. This week's photo was for the birds. It was taken by BCAT News Director Rich Hosford and shows a pair of large turkeys in the teacher parking lot at Burlington High. They didn't seem fazed by the cars, but considering Thanksgiving is in a few weeks, they might want to take a peek over their shoulders now and then. We'd like to see your photos. They could be of your fall activities, a family trip, or just everyday moments. Whatever you think is interesting and want to share. Email your photos to bcat@bcattv.org with the subject line Photo of the Week. Be sure to stay tuned after the news for the latest Burlington Public Schools update. Also, we're sorry to report the passing of Thomas Murphy Sr., a key figure in Burlington's growth during his career. We'll have more on that story next week. I'm Phil Gallagher, along with BNews Director Rich Hosford, BNews reporter Robert Paris, Peter Brown with the weather, Gretchen Carey with the community calendar, and Anthony Matos with sports. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening and welcome to the Burlington Public Schools update for October 29th. We had 2 positive cases of COVID-19 this week, and once again, with Test and Stay up and running, we were able to keep all of the individuals with consent forms submitted in school. Our goal continues to be keeping as many students in school as possible. The Commissioner of Education extended the mask requirement for public schools until January 15th. He will revisit masking in schools at that time. Any local latitude in eliminating the mask requirement in the future will depend on the percentage of students who are vaccinated. Please continue to work with your child's pediatrician regarding vaccines. Some changes coming in November. As stated last week, we will be opening our elementary and middle school cafeterias early in November. With the coming introduction of vaccines for students over the age of 5, our hope is to begin to reduce the COVID restrictions that have been put in place. We will continue to work closely with the Burlington Board of Health and watch the number of positive cases in our schools. As a reminder, if your child tests positive for COVID, please contact the Burlington Board of Health along with your school nurse. The positive is not official until confirmed by the Board of Health. The earlier the Board of Health can confirm, the more efficient and accurate the contact tracing can be. Our social emotional learning screener for elementary parents, you'll be receiving a letter regarding this screener. Over 2 decades of research has helped us understand the important role social and emotional skills play in each child's success in school, in the community, and eventually in higher education and the workplace. Skills such as demonstrating self-control, persisting at challenging tasks, making good decisions, and working well in groups are all necessary to being successful students and adults. To support our students in developing these skills that will help them become successful and responsible adults, we use the data obtained from the Devereaux Student Strengths Assessment, also called the DESA. This is to fine-tune our social-emotional program throughout the district's elementary schools. We have had responsive classrooms in place for many years as our core social-emotional learning program. The purpose of the DESA is to identify which social-emotional skills your child has already learned and what skills they might still need to develop. Once our teachers identify the skills their students still need to learn, they will teach those skills using lesson plans developed in collaboration with a school counselor. Our goal is to ensure that your child is continuously developing the skills they need for lifelong success. We hope everybody has a great Halloween weekend.